live, but there you go.
Well, you can, although I am live now. But
Or then they'll tell
okay, so now when I'm talking, look, when I'm talking, that one goes up. So that's number one.
Oh, right, so it's got like a volume.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
No,
can
we're
tell
very
they are
late.
charged because I can see the display really well.
What's that?
I can tell they are charged because I can see the display.
Well,
really well.
thanks. Yeah.
Sometimes.
I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, sometimes that's what's here.
Thank you. Did you see my? Did you see the Ferrari? Of,
Well, I'm not on Twitter, but yes, I saw the initial clip and I thought, oh, like a grenade.
well, I was all day. I've been reading about. All day I've been reading about women in spaces, and I was thinking about how everything's been fought so far, and everything's been fought on the basis of we are allowed this certain belief, not on the basis that women are discriminated against if they can't have their single-sex space,
Yeah.
right? And so discrimination was kind of on my mind, and as you know, I have no filter and I don't plan anything that I say.
And talk about Paul.
Yeah. No. It's, so it's.
Oh, yeah, right.
So it's.
Brute force, silly me.
It's the lenses that way, so we've got access to the screens. Okay, thank you. Have you come across my phone? Oh no, because I've left it in the back of my car.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, I have.
Oh,
Okay,
which
so
one?
we're just doing YouTube.
The YouTube one?
No, this is YouTube.
Oh, right,
It's
okay,
on.
go for that. All right,
Yeah.
so just put all this that way then.
I was just, yeah, I was
Give me
just in
back
a.
one of the mics then, the non-green one.
They're not, thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Okay. So I don't know if we're going to need to. Should we go here then, since everyone's there?
If you want, you can walk it.
Is that all right? Thank you. So if I stand here and then everyone
Just tell me where.
here, it'll be great. And then. There's already a storm.
Okay, sorry. Underestimated you again. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Could you do me a massive favour as well, Mary? Could you bring in that?
Yeah. I'll bring it all
Is
up.
that all right? Thank you. And I've washed this on a hot wash, so some of my diamantes came off.
It's trying to say it shrunk.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Hi. You can come in if you want, or you can stay there. It's like, good afternoon, class. With you all sat down. Are you okay there?
Yeah, we just need to hear because
Oh.
neither of us have got.
I will occasionally shout in your general direction. All right. Okay. I'll just do a couple of quite irritating rules, but just a few sociable things. If you want a chat or a cigarette, if you could just take yourselves outside of the circle, that would be great. For two things. Nobody's come here to smoke your cigarettes and nobody's come here to listen to you have a chat. And also, more importantly, sometimes we get women coming talking about things that are quite sensitive, personal. It might be the first time they've ever talked about it in public. It might have taken all of their courage to get here and speak. And so it'd be great if you could just do them the courtesy of listening and allowing other people to hear. Okay, so how we start this every day is, in fact, I've nearly choked on the way here on my own saliva, so this might be more dangerous than I think. But what a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in, why it's almost like being a... Oh, you all belong to the cult now. Well done. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so it's been quite an interesting week or month. Madrid, we went to Madrid, which was amazing, and it's really weird. Quite a lot of stewards wanted to help in Madrid. I don't know why. I don't think it was anything to do with the weather or the food or the people, but it was fantastic. I'm just going to ask this lovely crew if you can make sure people behind you can see. That would be great. Thanks. So these, you may recognise the film crew. They were here from, they had a great time in Brighton. I don't know if you remember. I'm not saying anything about any of their belief systems, but I know that they may have left with a slightly different opinion of the good nature of trans activists. But I don't know, and I haven't asked, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't actually care what anybody's opinion is of us or my views when they come and film us, because we have absolutely nothing to hide. And what you may know about me is, whilst I don't use filters when I'm on YouTube, I use a lot of light, but I don't have any filter to what I say. And so sometimes I may say something that some of you might not like very much. In fact, sometimes I might say something that I think, oh, I don't know if I should have said that quite the way I said it. However, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be a liar and a cheat. I don't want to be any of those things. I'm an activist. I'm simply using politics as a means to get conversations started, right? I don't expect to be the next Thatcher. You may think I should be. I don't expect to be the next Prime Minister. I don't expect to be the next MP in Brighton. I expect to maybe go along and stare at that man until he feels uncomfortable. That's what I intend to do. So I just want to say that you might expect politicians and pseudo-leaders, or people that you think might be leaders, you might expect me to monitor my language and my tone. I'm just going to say to you, it's not about to happen. I'm not about to start being really careful what I say and make sure I say stupid things like trans rights are human rights. And one thing I wouldn't like to do is if John comes in to work as Janet with a short skirt on so you can practically see his testicles, I just want him to have the same human rights as you and me. That isn't what I believe. I don't think John should be allowed to come into work in a short skirt and make my customers, my clients, my staff feel uncomfortable. So I don't think that's something that I believe. However, can I just say to left-wing feminists, I don't actually have the power to stop anyone getting a job, except in my own company, all right? And I don't, despite the fact that I am practically a billionaire, I only own the one house and I've got no spare rooms. So if anyone was worried that I was about to try and stop an AGP living with me, I don't have any room. I haven't advertised any space. I don't have a second home. I'm not Angela Rayner. So I'm just going to say this. I am a woman with conviction, right? Many of you are, that's why you're here, because actually, despite the fact that you're not supposed to have the views that you have, because it's so mean, where could they masturbate? Because it's awful, dreadfully mean. You're not allowed to have those opinions, and yet still here you are, having those opinions and telling everyone that you really don't give a shit what they think about that, okay? So I would be a total hypocrite if, upon announcing that I was going to run as an MP, I start guarding everything that I say and do a sanitized, kind of lukewarm version of what I've done before. However, if you want to be a candidate for Party of Women, you don't have to say the things that I say. You just have to know no woman has a penis, no man has a vagina, there is no such thing as non-binary, and transitioning children is profound abuse. Okay? So I also want to say that I don't do guilt by association. So if you join and you want to be a candidate, and you've got that much time to do it, if you join and you want to be a candidate, it's also none of my business, even as party leader, of what you think about other issues. I don't care. I don't care what you think about certain conflicts in the world. I don't care what you think about reproductive rights. I don't care what you think about council tax or bin collection. Those things are none of my business. I just need to know that in a process in which not a single politician is talking about repealing the GRA, that we're actually talking about that. That's the whole point. So let me just say it all again. We are standing as a disruptor. It's an extension of this activism. Party of Women is about disrupting the broken political process that we have, where you can either vote, as my husband said this morning, he's not particularly political, which is probably just as well. But we were driving, he said, it's really bad, isn't it? He said, so really you've just got a choice of Labour or Conservative governments. I was like, only for about 50 years. Before that, it was the same. So this is what we're talking about with UKIP, right? Like him or loathe him, Nigel Farage and his party and people that believed what he believed changed the conversations that people were having about Europe, right? I don't know how many MPs they got. I don't think they got any. I certainly don't think he ever sat in the House of Commons. But they forced politicians to have conversations about Europe. That's our intention. We intend to force politicians into the nonsensical crap that they spew about some women have penises, quite clearly, as Ed Davies said. Or as Angela Rayner says, trans rights are women's rights. Men's rights are actually women's rights. So when we're talking about politicians, we want to force them to either say something so idiotic that everybody can just hear it and everyone can start saying, God, that doesn't sound right, does it? What? So my mum, when she goes into hospital, she can't be in a female-only ward. Or my daughter, when she goes to school, she can't be in a single-sex space. Because whilst the Tories have come up with some little promises, I think it's May, and we're going to go to election in July. How many of those promises, how many of those we're going to do this, and how many of those things are actually going to happen before Keir Starmer comes in and goes, we're not going to do any of that. Nobody's mentioned AGP teachers, as far as I'm aware. Nobody's mentioned totally getting rid of guidance that puts male teachers in female-only spaces in schools. Nobody's mentioned that. I happened to be in Brighton, and can I just say that was so much fun. Thank you, Brighton ladies, they are amazing. So I was in Brighton moving library books, which is not criminal, but very annoying for library staff that go along with drag queen story time, right? So that's why we did it. So I was in Brighton, it was great fun, and there was a hulking great big bloke with French braids, with his class of teenage children, pretending to be a woman. But he didn't do it with his voice, but he did it with his attire. Now he'll still be allowed to teach. He'll still be allowed to wear his fetish to work. And so I just think we need those. No one's going to talk about it. No politician is going to be brave enough to start saying, actually, should we allow adults with fetishes to go and parade them in schools around children? No one's going to talk about that. It's going to be far too frightening. So that's the conversations that we want to have. And if as a society we say, well, we don't mind. We don't mind men going into school dressed as women because it's their sexual proclivity, desire, fantasy, kink, fetish. If we say that as a society, then so be it. But at the moment, no one said that because they're not allowed to talk about it. Okay, so that's where we are. Anyway, Let Women Speak is a bit of a party political broadcast today. The way we normally run it, come and say what you need to say. Try not to keep it too long, especially if you're at the front. If you think you have a lot to say and you're very bad at keeping it short, can you wait for other people to speak? And then you can risk the rain and have your say. But like I said, Party of Women is a disruptor. That's what we're doing. And we need 100 of you to stand, by the way, in order to get a party political broadcast. How much would we like to see Fiona Bruce have to put up with someone saying, no woman has a penis on Question Time? Because I personally would love to see that. There's been a couple of brave audience members, right? I think when Jonathan Willoughby was on, there were some brave audience members, but I really want to see someone on the panel, me, just say without hesitation or pause that no woman has a penis, that these men aren't welcome in our space, that there is no such thing as a trans child, that any doctor who's had anything to do with the transitioning of children is a medical abuser, and some criminal charges need to be brought against them. I would like to say all those things, but we need 100 of you to stand, and you need to do it damn quick. And I want you to ask yourself, why not? Rather than why would I? How can I? Just why wouldn't you? And you don't have to think I'm the best thing ever. You can think I'm passable, actually. But you can think, actually, what do we want from this movement? Do we keep wanting to meet on a Sunday, the last Sunday of every month? Do we want to just watch that overly filtered woman on YouTube? Or do we want to sign a petition? Do we want to go and have some conversations with people who go, well, thanks for having that conversation, and then nothing happens? Do we want to be thanking the Conservatives who've basically said, I'll do something half-assed? Or do we actually want to make political change? And I think we actually want to make political change. So, okay, who would like to speak? Thanks very much. Oh, and also, if you have skills, I would love to drain your brain. Please. Do you want to speak? Come on then. Every month she's got different hair. You have. It looks lovely. Can you stand here so we can
Is this where it is?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, first off, I'm a church-going Christian. What? And believe me, in a whole lot of spaces, that is really bad to say. They give you such grief, I've had to say.
Can
What?
you pretend you're in the church?
I'm not a preacher. Testify. And I'm finally going to say something about the Church of England, right? And I haven't really ever been Pete because I'm a biologist and I never thought you could change sex. So
She's never mentioned it.
And I've been on this since about 2018, and back in about 2019 we set up a group about what was going on in schools in Bristol, and we wrote to a lot of schools and tried to find out what looked at their policies. And then COVID came, and it ended up that none of us had children in schools, so we had no right to go into schools anyway. So it sort of stopped, and then we got some mums who could go into schools, so I've not been doing this. But suddenly the Church of England's there. So in September 2020, I wrote an email to the Bishop of Bristol and the Bishop of Swindon, they're my local bishops. Neither of them bothered to reply. I ran into the Bishop of Swindon and he apologised. I also sent them copies of Helen Joyce's Trans. Yay. When we were all sending them MPs, and I said, enough for 2 copies, send them to the Bishop of Bristol and the Bishop of Swindon. And when I met him, I said, have you read the book? And he said, no, I haven't had time. I thought, fuck you. And then in 2020, we have the Living in Love and Faith course. David Hayton, very much in evidence on that. And we had a gay man who was celibate because he'd found Jesus in it, talking about his faith. And we had 2 older lesbians, but the word lesbian was not mentioned in this little film clip. And a man in a wheelchair, disabilities. And then in the cathedral, it was, if anybody's upset by the content of this course, please get in touch, we'll talk to you. Got in touch, made an appointment, suddenly, it's not there. I'm the wrong kind of upset by it. And then it started popping up in the newspapers, a woman called Gladys Ledger who was sacked for refusing to go along with this, and there have been several people in schools. And then we've had this thing called Valuing All God's Children, which is very LGBTQ blah. And it was updated in about it started in 2014, but it's been updated. Stonewall gave them a grant to produce these materials. Stonewall said, oh, we didn't have anything to do with what was said in them. We just gave them the money to do it. Yes, right. And there was a whole thing about we want to stop transphobic bullying. Not we want to stop anybody being bullied. You'll get bullied as much for having a squint as being pretending you're the opposite sex. You will. You get bullied for anything in schools because children can be very cruel. And then there was a couple who had a big fight. Their 6-year-old son was forced to lie in a Church of England school. And then there was a 4-year-old who was entered into a Church of England school as the opposite sex. And then obviously he's in the wrong toilets. I think it was a boy. And the other kids like traumatized. Several other reports. So in 2023, LGBT Christians started, and I was so pleased to have somewhere that Christians could go in this movement. We've got Richard here, who's got leaflets about that. And it turns out we have about 1 million children in Church of England schools in this country. A quarter of all primary schools, because historically they did set up the schools, give it to them, they did set up the schools. 228 secondaries, 1540 Church of England academies, 280 multi-academy trusts, and 500 independent schools are all Church of England. So they're all being fed this stuff. Now, there's a group started recently called Protect and Teach. Again, they have a website. They're doing what we wanted to do in Bristol in 2019, and they have been to every school in Devon, Cornwall, Bristol, Bath and North East Somerset, looking at their policies, and they have found out that most of them misquote the Equality Act, and they are pushing this nonsense. Now, the reason I'm nearly finished, Pose. The reason I decided to speak, because last week there was a webinar called Church of England Schools. So me and various people got on it, including Richard. And yeah, this Protect and Teach, I'll just put this in. They wrote a really good 6-page letter, and they sent it to the King, Welby, who I just don't go there. Lots of the bishops and any safeguarding leads in the Church of England. We gave 6 printed and bound to Parliament. Kemi was given 1, an Archbishop in House of Lords, and 4 others who are interested in this. There are 1 or 2 bishops who are interested. Many bishops and safeguarding leads can only be accessed by a link where you have to state in 100 words your message. So they've done that. So this group that I'm now in, obviously, because I'm Southwest, we're trying to get some proper resources together to give to schools and say, look, use these. You don't have to have these weird people in. And we were on this webinar, and she put in something that said, you know, we're very worried about trans ideology. And then I put in something else in the chat. And then a guy who is a priest and a ethics university lecturer put something in, and the response was, we're not talking about loving all God's children, or whatever the thing is about the children. We're not talking about that. And then suddenly we're both booted out of this webinar. Suddenly nothing there on the screen. I was so angry. I texted Kathy, I said, were you chucked out? She said, yes, they just chucked us both out, which is why I like in real life, because they can't chuck you out. And I'm just so angry, which I usually come when I'm angry, Posie. I am just so angry at being treated so disrespectfully by the whole of the fucking church. I've told them I'm going to be a Catholic. Oh, I hope that was good.
Oh, no, it's great.
Do it when I'm in passion.
Good. I'll tell you a little story about the Church of England. My daughter went to a Church of England school, and she said to me, it's really unusual, Mummy, because she still called me Mummy back in those days, because it's primary. It's really unusual, Mummy. We keep having the head teacher give us PSHE lessons on a Thursday afternoon. And I said, has she not taught you before? No. What are you doing? Well, we're doing trans stuff. We're doing all about acceptance and trans stuff. And I was like, right, okay. And she said, and I said that I would think it was weird if there was a man who the teacher had called a trans woman in my changing rooms. I said I thought he was weird. And my daughter was chastised, which was kind of the head teacher's first mistake. And so I gave her a call and I went in and I said, what is this about? What is this? And she said, oh, nothing, you know, Christian. We just don't, it wouldn't be nice to call a man weird. And I said, are you trying to obliterate my daughter's boundaries? Are you It's just, there's a man playing Michael Jackson. I just might hold off just for a minute. I'm finding it annoying. He's just got a moonwalk off. I don't know if any of you were here, just a little side note. We were outside the old pub that we used to go to just after one of these. What was that person singing? Do you remember? There was someone singing and all of us just joined in. It was amazing. Anyway, sorry, I was doing white power signs. Oh, sorry, okay signs. Anyway, so I shouldn't joke because TRAs are humourless. They have no sense of humour, but we can't let that stop us. And they do get dressed every day, so you think that they do have a sense of humour. Anyway, so I just went in and I said, look, you're eradicating her boundaries. This is a safeguarding issue. My daughter should be able to verbalise her discomfort at a man in her changing rooms. And you telling her it's wrong, that may have planted a little seed that will grow into something, which means she doesn't feel that she can raise the alarm when she feels she's in danger. Very much like, how dare you? Anyway, they accidentally kept me on their email thing once my daughter had left the school. And lo and behold, a boy who'd been teased for being girly and acting like a gay, as the children would have said, was coming back to school as a girl, using girl spaces. He'd given presentation assemblies to all of the school, except the reception where he did class by class. And he was celebrated. What's it like to be born in the wrong body? And if you wanted any further information, according to this letter, you could get in touch with mermaids. So that's the Church of England. And my daughter is now nearly 18, and that's when she was at primary school. So what happened to Alison is terrible, but this rot has been embedded in the C of E for a long time, although the bishops are part of the 2004 GRA, which says they don't have to go along with any of this nonsense because they didn't want to marry same-sex couples in the church, whether the man pretended he was a woman or not. Because the homophobia, I understand, hasn't really left. But now they call it something else. They say that you're transphobic if you can't be homophobic by pretending that men can be women and children can actually transition. So that's what this is. The rich people and the deeply religious, empowered, powerful people, people that have a say in the House of Lords, people that have hereditary peerages and entitled and land and so on, which if I ever pronounce that word right, I'll be really delighted with myself, so I'm using very many words so I don't look stupid. But those people are the only two that can absolutely be excluded from having to pretend a man is a woman. They are the exceptions on the Gender Recognition Act. So that's the C of E bishops. They don't have to marry two men. And anybody who has land entitlement, they don't have to give their land to some pesky girl who pretends she's a boy and legally transitions. They can say that's not true and they can still hand everything over to an actual penis. So that's my little thing on the C of E. Anyway, anyone else? Yes. What a lovely sticker you're wearing
It's
today,
lovely. Guess what?
Jan.
Do you want to know where I got it from?
Oh, it's amazing.
Hi everybody, nice to see you. I'm Jan from Object. I thought I'd give you a little update, thank you, on the Kenwood Ladies Pond Association situation. I loved what Kellie-Jay was saying about being a disruptor. Now, I'm not one of those disruptor types of people. I'd like to be one. I'm working on it, and I'm going to be one when I grow up. But I joined the Kenwood Ladies Pond Association committee because I'm a community-minded person. I've been a school governor. I've been the chair of the Friends of my local library. I wanted to do my bit on the committee, and I did. Some of you very kindly voted for me. So off I go, good little committee member. Actually, before I tell you that, have you heard about that group of nurses in the north of England taking a case? I thought, good, we need to keep fighting these single-sex spaces. I don't need to tell you. Anyway, there's me, committee member, putting chairs out for teas, selling merchandise, tidying up after breakfasts, all sorts of things. I didn't know myself. And eventually, when I thought they've got to know me a bit, I said, I'd like to raise this issue of single-sex spaces, you know, and you'd have thought I'd sworn at them or something. Anyway, we agreed that I would put it in a letter. So I wrote this letter, I talked to Sex Matters and a lawyer and put a nice little summary of where I thought we were on the single-sex spaces and sent it in. And that was when you'd think I'd grown horns and a tail. Suddenly, they started being horrendous to me. Fortunately, you know, it was like this. But I haven't been spoken to like that since I kicked my druggy son out when he was 18. So there was a lot of nastiness. I also committed the crime of doing a webinar with the Women's Declaration International. And I said things about these women on the committee, which actually were true, but you'd think I'd revealed their personal home addresses from what the fuss they made. I said they were all nice ladies. They are. Who all lived near the pond. They are, who always had cars or bikes and could get there easily, didn't seem to have any job or any commitments, no one to look after. And how nice it was for them to have a little social club where only people like them could join. I also found out, I actually read the Constitution. The Constitution says that they will take steps to get a wider variety of women coming to the pond. So I said, oh, let's get some single parents along, knowing what it was like when I was a single parent. Single sex space is just what you want. And I got Gingerbread involved, and they came over and said, what a great idea. Maybe we could pay their entry fees for a summer as a trial to see how it goes, to widen access to the pond. Anyway, they threw that out. They didn't like it. As according to plan, I did get a lot of horizontal hostility. I think some people thought I would go in there and tell them what to do and they would all do it, which shows a touching confidence in me, but it's not the way things get done. So at the AGM, put in a motion to revert to proper single-sex space and, of course, got voted down. But we definitely got them on the run. There were a lot of new members who suddenly turned out from the local school where I think one of the committee teachers. The old chair resigned, the previous chair came back, and it was all hands to the pump to get the TERFs out. We had a lot of fun at the AGM. Venice Allen practically had to be carried out since they wouldn't let her speak. We got a lot of press coverage, both locally and in the national press. And in terms of disruption, I think we just have to keep on and on and on doing it. I don't see it as a failure. Some people said, oh, it failed. And you could say that. I see it as a step to success. If we all sit around here and wait for failure to hit us, then we'll be waiting a very long time. So while I'm on the subject of that, do feel free to join the Fawcett Society. Leave that for next time. Oh God, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Who else? Who else? Can I give you this? Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Well, I've got two hats today, and I haven't been for a while. That's because I was getting absolutely too knackered to do any number crunching. But the website seems to be working, and we now have 20 countries of sex-specific stats, and that's the new website name, sexspecificstats.org.uk, and the hashtag is sex-specific stats. Now, had I better put this the right way up? Yes. Now, Brighton is going, hashtag Brighton, hashtag GE 2024, if you know what I'm saying. Things have already started to liven up. That rumour that Kellie-Jay Keen is standing against Lord Moyle Russell Bibobs, the arch misogynist of great renown, has set tongues a-wagging. Kellie-Jay, they imagine that you think you're going to win. They imagine that you're not doing this to be a disruptor. So sadly this morning I had to disappoint Benjamin, who was getting very revolting on the Brighton and Hove News, where you might wish to leave your comments. Nod, nod, wink, wink. Brighton and Hove Argus. Nod, nod, wink, wink. Might be useful in the general election 2024 hashtag season. So I was able to tell him that as a lesbian, female and homosexual, living a resident of Brighton for 30 years with a bit of a gap of 5 years in the middle, that Kellie-Jay Keen was fantastic for standing. And it's brilliant she's standing, and that I was delighted she was standing. So that it created this opportunity for me to put him right about the statistics. Oh, and he thought that Kellie-Jay Keen had a gender. And I was brilliantly able to tell him that no, she has no gender or gender identity. Like 100% of the population, she has a sex. And like 51.0% of the population, that sex is female. And so I was very happy to put him right. And it's so lovely of him to give me that opportunity. And I jotted down the stats of the lesbian and gay population too, because I'm boring that way. I'm boring with numbers. Let's turn that around. Now, dear Elizabeth Fry was a resident of Brighton. She's got a bus named in her honour. So she is a very suitable person. A very suitable person indeed. Now, this 88%, 99%, yeah? Oh, the postcard from 2001, 21, I beg your pardon. The same for 2022, the same for 2023. Do you know what? The other day, I thought 18,733 Excel rows for Scotland was a bit much. But do you know how many New Zealand had? 200,000. But that just motivated me, and I discovered that in New Zealand for a 25 whole years, 99% of sentenced sexual offenders were male. We have a quarter of a century in New Zealand and in Australia. It's the same in the United States, Canada, Republic of Ireland, European Union, Germany, France 97, but that's only 1 year. Germany 98%, only 1 year. The brand new statistic, friends. I want you to remember, you can forget the 88% because that's a bit of a mouthful. I want you to remember 97%. 97%. 97% of those raped were female. And that is from the Office for National Statistics. And so I'm in the process with the wonderful Molly of finalising a postcard, and we're hoping to get 10,000 by the end of next week. Now, quick striptease, has Elizabeth Fry ever been known? This will wind up the Quakers. Dun, 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 da, 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 da. I know. Ta-da! Here is my bright green t-shirt from ensuring that Caroline Lucas got re-elected in 2017, 15 rather, when her national campaign were frankly going to lose. So I covered the constituency with those. 2010, 2015, 2017. 2010 on the back. I've got the whole of Green Party history. And that, vote for one Green MP to make a difference. Isn't the Green Party about the environment? So, these are all dated, by the way. This is what I picked out of what might have been recycling. Oh, I beg your pardon, yes. This is what I picked out of the recycling. Yeah? From the Green Party in Brighton and Hove. Am I happy, ladies and gentlemen? No, I'm not. And I have 300 more like that, creating thermal insulation for my house. Hashtag Brighton. Hashtag General Election 2024. Everybody knows Kellie-Jay Keen is from outside, is coming to make a point, which is fantastic. I happen to be a lesbian, and there are moves afoot within Brighton and Hove, which has 3 constituencies, assembling nominators as we speak to make sure that we have full support for Kellie-Jay Keen running in Brighton Kemp Town, as she fully deserves. So, yeah, oh yeah, Sian Berry. You may not have heard of her really. That's my engineering hat from Greenham Common. That's how long I've been doing this gig. They chucked it at me as a term of abuse. They thought dragon was a term of abuse. And I loved it and have kept it ever since. So, if you look Sian Berry up, she's big on her bachelor's in engineering. So my question for Sian Berry is, why can't she do the basic maths? Obviously, you need a master's in engineering to do some basic sums, don't you? And if you can't do basic sums on the binary maths of biological sex, you haven't got a chance with the far more complex maths of climate change. That's me done. Yes, of course.
So much. We're going to have these on the website later. These are for schools. Is that in focus? And there's some stickers to go with it. In fact, has anyone got any of the stickers from today? Because they are amazing. So this says, is your child being groomed into the cult at school? You should know, right? And it's got the lovely little progressy, pridey, progressy, authoritarian cult flag behind it. And so this is to go outside of schools, because I think, like I said, the Conservatives have said some things, but Labour will undo it. And actually, activist teachers are totally embedded within the school. And so whatever you do, whatever they say, it's going to be years of undoing unless parents re-establish their role as the #1 kind of authority in their children's lives. And I'll say it again, because I know it really annoys people, but I do wonder if Gillick wasn't the first step into severing the authority that parents have over their children. And I don't mean that we should then force children who are being abused, girls rather, teenage girls who are being abused, into a situation where they have to get pregnant. But we might decide that it would be good, rather than the situation right now, which is, let's face it, doctor surgeries wanting access to 12-year-old children without their parents being involved in those conversations. And that is the case in this country. So if my daughter goes to the doctor, in fact, she did go to the doctors, and the doctor was asking the most inappropriate questions of my daughter when she was 15, without any sort of broader, like, are you sexually active? Not. It was just, there's a difference between trying to find out if someone is being a victim of coercion, or is perhaps in an inappropriate relationship, or basically casually mentioning that it's very likely that kids are having sex. And actually many of you may have been having quite grown-up relationships at 15, but that's because we're a lot older. Because now they barely even talk to each other, even on the phone, let alone have relationships with each other in the flesh. Teenage pregnancy has gone down, not because it's worked, people, the education about teenage pregnancy, but because they're simply just not having sex. There's a massive decline in sort of relationships, new relationships and sort of starter relationships amongst teenage children and teenage adults. Okay, so anyway, so this says, most of us trust our children's school to have a good idea about safeguarding. We assume that teachers are more about education than activism. Unfortunately, we are often wrong. What are your kids doing at school? Is the school signed up to one of these groups below? No outsiders. That's a fast track to Troonville. All sorts, jigsaw. Get yourself a nice dice. Do you know about the dice and jigsaw? I'll remind you. In the little, one of the jigsaw, or was it the Pride Trust? So Pride Trust, they're all the same. Pride Trust, you could get a couple of dice, so you make them. They say anus, mouth, fingers, vulva, penis, object. And then what you do, you and your partner in school, you just pair off and when you're teenagers and you throw the dice, 2 of them, and then and then you discuss with the results how the 2 things might work together. What sort of things you might do, right? In front of an adult. Now, I've talked to my teenage children, because my youngest is 15, and we talked about this, and they were deeply horrified, but the most horrifying thing is that it's in front of an adult. And what that does to blur the boundaries between children and adults and how uncomfortable it is. And I can't imagine all teachers are comfortable with this either, right? Even if kids kind of think it's quite funny to embarrass teachers, I can't imagine all teachers think, do you know what I'd like to do today? I'd like to totally obliterate the boundaries between children and adults when it comes to sex. Anyway, so what we're doing as part of Let Women Speak and Party of Women is we're going outside of schools and leafleting, not when the kids are with their parents, because we don't want to then encroach upon children's time and their safety and their first conversation with their mum, usually mum, when they come out of school. This is when parents have dropped off in the morning, they can be leafleted, and before they pick their kids up. So it's all rather appropriate. But this is just to continue the push of making it so difficult for schools to lie to parents, to be activists behind parents' backs, and to really drive this message home, because I think this is what Party of Women and Let Women Speak, this is what we do. We go and actually force the conversations. I'm not interested in how many schools do what or any of these things. This is, I look like a little pig, it's not as a dog. But I do know what a dog is. Anyway, so it's all about that. So if you want to get involved, you need to join your locals. We make sure that you say as much as we can. We try and keep you safe online, but nobody is safe online. Let me just say, anybody can be, we can be infiltrated, and somebody can spend like 6 months trying to get into the sort of inner circles. But then you get put in a nest, and then what you can do is you can plan actions, because one thing I think we do very well is funny, direct actions. And I think the ladies in Brighton will agree, it was so much fun swapping around some books in a library where you're supposed to be well behaved, and even talking loudly, which I think that was more upsetting for everyone than anything else. Okay, who else would like to speak? Yes, Elaine. Sorry, Lynn.
They're not one person.
Oh, they all look the same.
I got here late, so I realised that you do already.
That's why I thought you were Elaine.
Yeah, you've been already talking about schools, but I just want to talk a bit more about what's happening in schools and what should happen, and what is often been totally ignored because lots of schools have been captured by Stonewall and don't stand up for the rights of women and girls and don't conform to the Equality Act. But this is from the current schools minister, Gillian Keegan, and she said, and what she said is supposed to be happening in schools is that children should not be taught about gender identity ideology. They can be taught about people who've had surgery, but they should not be taught gender identity ideology. And this is being published actually on Thursday. And children should not have sex education unless they're under 9 years old. And sex education, one of the points that she's making is that children are not understanding that sex education should be about biology and not about gender identity. A lot of school teachers say that they don't know when she says gender identity ideology should not be being taught in schools now, they don't know what she means. So they're continuing to teach gender identity ideology. She's also said that in some schools they're being taught about a spectrum of gender, and they're being taught that there are all these different genders, and this again should not be happening. She doesn't know how widespread this problem is, but she's got these concerns about what is going on. So what we're up against is teachers actually ignoring all this and carrying on teaching gender identity ideology and promoting harm to children. And the schools are becoming a breeding ground for transgenderism, and we know that one of the things that is happening is that the trade unions, particularly the school education union, is rejecting all this totally and just saying that they're going to continue to promote transgenderism for children. So this is what is actually going on. The trade unions, and particularly the education union, and they're ignoring quite a lot of what Gillian Keegan is saying about not teaching gender identity ideology. So I mean, I've got one granddaughter who is in secondary school, and I will be doing what Kellie-Jay is suggesting, to find out what they're actually being taught in that school. So it's really important that we continue to campaign against the ideology and the education union, what the education union wants to do, which is to promote transgenderism, and that we continue to campaign to stop it. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, there was, yes. Gonna pin this on here,
Sure.
is that right? Okay.
Okay, and where should I stand?
Right
here. Okay. All right. Hi. I'm very new. It's my first time at one of these events. As you can probably hear, I'm not super local to London, but I've recently moved to the United Kingdom from the United States after realizing that my views are not exact. I am someone who needs to be able to talk and be loud about what I believe. And I don't believe I can do that in the United States, at least at the age I am at if I would like to go to a university. So when I was 18, which was 2 years ago, I started at the University of Oregon, which is one of the most liberal universities in the United States. And liberal as in Looney Tunes, not like moderate. At this university, I was super, super progressive, super into all of the gender identity stuff. I was really like supportive of all of this. And because of that, I ended up with a roommate who was what I would now call not a gynophile. In America, we share a single bedroom with another person, sometimes 2 other people. So I was in a room with this man for 4 months, from September to January. That entire time, I was so supportive of the ideology. I believe that my discomfort with his sexual harassment, with his verbal abuse, with his constant talking about my body and his sexual fetishes and the weird things he was into was my transphobia, was my bigotry. I spent months living in terror of this man who was a full foot taller than me and having to call him a woman to every single person I knew. When I finally got the courage to leave in January of 2023, I had a few friends help me, and then they never spoke to me again. I had to hide out in another friend's dorm for the weekend while I waited for the university to approve the move. After that, I joined a sorority, which is a women's organization for trying to find support and sisterhood after that experience, because it was really difficult. And I really found great connections and great friends, and really had a good time. And by May of last year, so almost a little over a year ago, I finally felt the courage, and I was like, you know what? What happened to me isn't right. What happened to me, I should talk about this. I'd sort of rethought my whole worldview after leaving, because I was like, what the hell happened to me? Like, I'm so confused. And sort of realized, like, oh, he's not a woman. I literally believed that this man was a woman, like, for months. I was like, no, every time I'd like think he accidentally, I'd like scold myself. Like, I was really, really deep in it. And so finally I was like, you know, this is bullshit. Sorry, I know there's kids, but I was like, this is terrible. Like, this is insane. And I wanted to speak out about it. I didn't talk to anyone for months, even though I was thinking all of these things. And so eventually I wrote an essay, and I published it on Medium and posted it to my personal Instagram account to a couple hundred followers, mostly just people I knew from high school. And I published this essay, and within a few hours, I was getting horrible messages from people I considered friends. I was told that I was a nasty bigot, that nobody cared that I was abused because I'm transphobic. I was told that I should just shut up about it, or that I went about it the wrong way, so now it doesn't matter. And worst of all, I received an email a few days later from this sorority I had joined saying that I'd been called in for a disciplinary hearing, which is usually reserved for girls who break the law and are arrested. All I had done was called out somebody for taking advantage of a system the university had put in place that allowed mixed-sex dorms. So I was called in, I was brought in for what I now consider to be a heresy trial in 2023, was convicted, obviously, and was effectively bullied off of my college campus to the point where I have not spoken about this publicly since then. So it's been over a year since I've even talked to anyone about this. Yeah, thank you. It's been really like difficult. You know, I've been doing a lot of therapy. I've sort of processed it all, and I'm doing a lot better now. But it was a really difficult few months, and yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to share that because I finally, you know, I had to leave the country, which has supposedly freedom of speech regulations. I had to leave the country in order to feel safe speaking about this in public after what happened to me last time. And so I've now moved here. I'm going to be in university here in the fall, and I'm hoping for a better experience, at least a little bit better. But oh my God. So yeah. So I just want to say thank you all, and I want to say, as a former hardcore TRA, it really does take something crazy happening in order to change, in order to fully like snap out of it. Like, I felt like I was going down the rabbit hole. I was like, this is crazy. So thank you. Thank you.
Have a don't talk to me now, but we'll go to the pub after and we'll have a chat. See, this is what happens when your freedom of, your genuine freedom of speech is curtailed. That eventually, like that young woman said, you're scolding yourself for your own private thoughts. And that's not an experience just for the young. We've met women all over the world who have the same experience of not knowing that the way they feel about a man in their space is the way we all bloody well feel about a man in our space. Now, some of us, like if you're a member of the Greens, you might tell yourself, like that young lady did, that it's your transphobia and you just need to get over it. You need to sort yourself out. Have a word with yourself. Yeah, he's got an erection in the showers, but, you know, it's a woman's erection. And your discomfort about him talking about his erection when he's in a dress is because you're a bit of a prude and you're a bit frigid and you just, you know, it's her expression and it's her feelings. And do you really want to stop that beautiful, stunning and brave woman experiencing the world through the lens of her penis? And if you do want to do that, it's because you're a transphobic bigot. And you need to, what is it? Reframe your trauma. He's still got a job, right? Old pervy McPerf-faced in Edinburgh rape crisis. Can I just say to all you women now going, we had no choice. Fuck off. Every single one of them who gave that man a job, who never went to the press, who did nothing about it, who carried on working alongside him, you are culpable. Every last one of you. So, I just, like, you meet a woman, met a woman in Colchester, and she said, you know, he came in the changing rooms. I thought I was the only one. A few of us women, we all said, well, we don't like him in the changing room. And I think he was showering. Women had then started the communal showers in the women's changing room. They'd kept their costumes on. Not him. He was all right about his nudity. Her penis. He was all right about his nudity around women who were uncomfortable about his nudity and their own. And then when she went downstairs saying, come on, we'll go and complain, and a few others were like, yeah, go on you go. And so she went on her own, and now she self-excludes. So a woman in her, I think she said she was in her early 60s, who probably, God, I mean, I think we all you need a lot of exercise apparently to stay in shape past the age of 49, 47, 45, whatever it was, whenever it was that I was last fit. But she doesn't work, so who does she go and see? Where's a nice little social group? Where's her fitness group gone? Oh, I know, a man took it. A man came and poisoned it, so she can't go anymore, so she's self-excluded. Because the manager said, she's allowed to. She with the penis. What's that word? Discrimination, that we're not allowed to do. We're not allowed to discriminate against him with his penis, naked in the women's changing rooms. Let's not discriminate against him at all because that's against the Equality Act and apparently that's breaking the law. Let's discriminate against the women who self-exclude though, like fuck them. Sorry. But really, sod those women. We can discriminate against those women. And let me just say, I've been thinking about the word discriminate quite a lot lately. And I'm just going to tell you, we should have fought all of our cases on the basis that we were discriminated against for having men in our spaces. As far as I'm concerned, now I'm not a lawyer, you may know, you may be able to tell. I'm not a lawyer, I have no legal training, but I think if you fight something on the basis of a 75% win, you haven't actually won and you end up fighting again and again and again. If we fought it on the basis of sex discrimination, because it was no longer a space where women felt they could be safe in a female-only space, then I think we might be a little further ahead. But we didn't do that, and now women like myself are chastised because I want to discriminate the hell out of men in women's spaces. Thanks very much. Okay. Where's my lovely friend from, you may recognise her from previous outings in Glasgow. You all right? Okay, I'll be right here.
We are currently experiencing a dangerous outbreak of medical scandal awareness. Long may it continue on its unstoppable course. There are now almost 200,000 patients on the NHS waiting list for an autism spectrum disorder assessment in the UK, the highest recorded figure to date. And in many cases, you will be waiting years for the initial consultation. Just a few decades ago, the number of persons with an ASD was 1 in 10,000. So rare it was hardly ever taught about in medical school. Since then, that figure has shot up to 1 in 36 in the progressive, inclusive, wide awoke West. In Northern Ireland, the current rate is 1 in 20, with the urban population having a statistically significant higher prevalence than the rural population. In Scotland, autism organisations proudly proclaim inclusion of the self-diagnosed, neuroqueer, autigender and non-binary identities, while those with the greatest support needs get drowned out by the cluster B screams. The more palatable, explainable autism light attracts worthier attention and diversity funding thanks to that magic rainbow. Foreboding colours that signify no longer can there be any female-only autism spaces, our recurring theme. To this day, experts have little clue as to what causes autism and absolute certainty what does not. Industry shills would have you believe that the autism epidemic crisis is down to better diagnosis and that, like trans, was always there throughout our evolutionary history. The seizures, the allergies, obesity, insomnia, anxiety, depression, self-harm and severe reactions to our ancestral foodstuffs, etc. are all just part of the condition. Regardless, the diagnostic criteria has not changed. Severely disabling or profound autism comprises more than a quarter of the spectrum and is more likely to be observed in females, in ethnic minorities and in families with a low socio-economic status. At the present rate, profound autism would have been impossible to miss or cope with in the past without lifetime 24/7 care. So what's really going on and why are we not allowed to ask? It's predicted that by 2032 we will be diagnosing 1 in 2 children with an ASD. That would mean that 50% of the world's population was always autistic. At what point do the neurotypical become the minority? It seems like this ideology will end up erasing itself along with the most vulnerable in society. An ideology founded on presumptions, assumptions, myths and lies, and of course, warning of monsters and dangerous misinformation. The good thing about monsters, though, is you never have to find out what actually happened to those kids you care about, because a monster thought or said or wrote or questioned or investigated something bad. So monsters must be cancelled, disregarded, no debate, no dissent. Be grateful that someone else has done the thinking for you. But we're the canaries in the coal mine, and you need to hear this well. Big Pharma does not love you. And when that penny finally drops, and you think you're angry now, we'll still be here, waiting for you to catch up on your long and painfully unmedicated withdrawal. You may hate us, but you will become us. Forgive yourself.
Oh my God, that was great. Well done. Well done. I'm just going to take this lovely thing off you. You all right? God. Okay. Well, I think quite fittingly the heavens opened at that point. I don't know what to say after that, except how is anyone really supporting such a horrific, exploitative cult that is feeding off the funding being given to people that really, really need it. I'm going to wrap up because it's torrential rain, and after Pride comes the storm. Okay, if you, oh, I can't. Okay. Okay, it's got to be very, very, very quick because everyone's getting torrential rain. I mean, like a minute. I mean, a minute. Okay, because I can't expect people to stay in torrential rain.
Okay. Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I need all of your help. I don't know if you're all aware, but the therapists against conversion therapy and transphobia are currently trying to oust the entire board of the UKCP. So this means that because the UKCP pulled out of the Memorandum of Understanding, these therapists against conversion therapy and transphobia believe that they were wrong to do so and the whole entire board should be removed, and they want the Memorandum of Understanding, the UKCP, to return as a signatory. Can you please all get behind Dr. Christian Butland, the current chair of the UKCP, behind the Save UKCP hashtag, behind, what are we talking about? Thoughtful therapists, therapy first, Save Mental Health, Critical Therapy Antidote, all of these people, oh, and myself, Tamara Sears UK, because in the coming weeks, they are having an election. And at the moment, they have the numbers and we don't. So we need all of the therapists that previously thought they understood the definition of conversion therapy need to understand that under the guise of queer theory, those definitions have changed. And there are conflicts that are created as a result. Not enough therapists are aware of this. Can you please lift up Dr. Christian Butland and please lift this issue in order to try and keep them in place? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you send us something, please?
Okay. Oh, sorry, darling. Sorry.
Okay, right. I'll wrap up. Don't put your umbrellas away. Oh my God. And don't get those crisps out because they'll go wet. They'll get wet. Yeah, and then you can't come anymore. Okay, so seriously, you've got until the 6th, 7th of June. There's so much to do to be an MP. It's a way of keeping you out. And we're not really anticipating the win, right? So you're going to raise the money and then you're going to stand under the name of Party of Women. And we are going to do everything in our power to get this done, because there's many steps that are really irritating. I do think it's a way of keeping you normies out. But anyway, we will endeavour to get this done, and then elections coming. But you've got to get in by the 6th, 7th of June. But yeah, it's got to be done. 100 of us, needs 100 of us, which should be easy. 100 of us to register, to be nominated. Get yourself an agent, you've got to be nominated by a couple of people, and then you can run. And then we can have so much fun. Okay, so we came here to let women speak as Party of Women. They're my own. And I didn't even take any hormones. They just naturally occurred. And here's a treat. The more you eat. Anyway, swings and roundabouts, I'm just saying. If you can stand in this on and off rain and be rigid in your position that we are not moving, and if anything, we're going to take our stuff back, then I promise we will win. If you can put yourself forward, because what have you got to lose, really? Labour is going to get in. Keir Starmer is, Angela Rayner is going to get in. 1-2 houses, I don't give a fuck. Angela Rayner is going to get in. Keir Starmer is going to get in. Mealy-mouthed, what's her name? Jess Phillips. Jess Phillips. I've been saying this for she was the one that introduced the whole spousal veto into the women inequality. So, and she also read a boy's name twice on the femicide census. Same person twice. I don't recall her ever reading a woman's name twice, 1 year after another. She is I feel that was an opportunist, nasty FU to women. That's what I feel. But anyway, if you can find a constituency near you that either has a marginal seat or is occupied by a moron, I found mine. I put it to you. Frankly, so I found a suitable candidate to go and stand against and embarrass. So if you can do that, I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Why? Because I never lose. Thanks, Mary. Thank you, Stuart and Mary, as always.